All right, folks, welcome to this market update. I'm going to take you through what's going on across Simcoe County in residential sales. This again is across all of Simcoe County and all the data that's been recorded on the Barrie District Board. First off, I'm going to kind of take you back. This goes back to February of 2021. Let's increase the size here just so you can kind of get a look at what's going on. Again, this recording is taking place on August 24th, 2022, just so we all know where we're at. Again, so looking here, oops, what did I do? Try that again. All right, so you can see this stuff here. This is number of new listings hitting the board each week. This cancellation number, the reason I was tracking how many were canceled each week in comparison to the number of new listings is it gives us a measure of how efficiently the market is operating. If people aren't having to cancel listings very much, that means that they feel good about the listing. It's probably going to sell. When things are getting canceled a lot, it's either A, they try a certain strategy, maybe they underlist and it doesn't work out, so they cancel it and relist it at a price that they like, that they actually want, instead of playing that kind of underpricing game. Or B, it's been listed for a while and they've gotten fed up and they're going to cancel it and relist it fresh again. So the less cancellations means that things are selling more efficiently. As cancellations tend to rise, that means that people are not selling the way that they planned on. So we can see back in early 2021, cancellation percentages were between 10 to 20%. 18% is the highest I saw there that week of the end of March. We can also see the number of new listings. They start rocketing up through into March. They kind of peak at that highlighted week. Okay, so I'm going to kind of speed along here and look at what started to happen last year and into the summer. So as we got into May and June, you can see the number of new listings are starting to slowly drop. The cancellations are on the rise. Okay, we peaked at 28% there, the end of June, early July. Okay, and then we hit that 28% again middle to late July. Now these percentages, by the way, that's just, for instance here, 66 canceled out of 237. So it's just a percentage as compared to how many new listings hit the board that week. I just used it as a consistent measure we could look at. Now, the interesting thing was the number of new listings kept dropping, really, generally speaking. We saw a little pickup there around the start of September, right? That's usually when you get your fall market rush. September to October. So they were they picked up a little bit through early September, but then started dropping again. And you'll also see those cancellation numbers. They're a little bit out of skew here in December because we have so few listings in December, and that's quite usual. Again, you're getting into Christmas season, so usually activity drops off a little bit there. Okay, but then we can see this is into this year now, early January, number of new listings start climbing again. Everybody was excited because the prices were going through the roof. So people are rushing to try and get their stuff on here. And you'll see the number of cancellations were really low in the early part of the year. It's because we had no inventory. Things were selling like crazy. And then all of a sudden, we started to see cracks in the market late February to early March. And we started to see those cancellation percentages start climbing again. And now we start hitting into the 30% range as we get into March, April. This is also when the prices started to reverse. But people were too late to get on. They were trying to rush to get all their listings on. They could see that the market was starting to turn. And this is what happens when you try to time the market. I'm going to wait a little bit longer. I'm going to wait to see how high it'll go. Well, by the time people were rushing on at this point, they were too late. Prices were declining, inventory was exploding, cancellations started to go through the roof. Look at the cancellation percentages and numbers as compared, thinking about all the way back through the previous year plus before that. And as we get into recent weeks, the number of new listings has finally started to drop off again. Okay, so we're starting to drop in the number of new listings. It's coming down. Now we're consistently seeing in the low 300s to mid 200s. The cancellation percentages, though, are still astronomically high as compared to how many new listings came on. Okay, so other thing we can look at, how many new listings came on versus how many were sold each week. Okay, so one thing you can kind of look at here, just to kind of, if these numbers, the number of numbers that are here, the number of numbers, if all the numbers in these charts is overwhelming to you, just look at the right hand column, this sold to new list percentage. Okay, just as an example, right here, March 29th, April 4th, you'll see 271 were sold, 307 new listings. That means 88% is the percentage of how many were sold versus how many were listed. Okay, so I put it in green if it was over 80%. If it was between 70 to 80%, I put it in black, and I put it in red if it was below 70%, meaning it's weaker for the sellers. Red is an alarm. Okay, so as we move through, this is picking up February of 2021. So we move down here. Things were strong through the spring. Then as we got into late spring, early summer, it was kind of okay. And then we get into late summer, there's some red and green. It was kind of mixed bag. And then we get into late summer and into fall, and it just went gangbusters. Okay, look at these percentages. And, October, November, December, just be careful here in December. Again, they're out askew because the number of listings were so low. But we had such little inventory that everything that was coming on, plus then some, was getting gobbled up because there was such a frenzy in the market. But as soon as the new year turned, we saw a little bit of a pullback there for a second. And then we could already see leading edge indicators here that there was going to be some problems. Okay, because we saw a lot of red here for the first time in a long time. So this was before we started to see the market turn. We started to see some leading edge indicators here. Okay, if you just look at the raw sold numbers, they were kind of holding somewhat consistent, but the problem is the inventory was growing because we were getting a lot of listings rushing on, trying to cash out on that hot market in terms of pricing. Now, if I continue to take you through here, I had to change the colors here because the sold to new list percentages were so low. They were down into the 40s and 30s, and even we can even see down here 24 and 27%. So low when you consider back just around the start of the year, we were into 90s and 100%. Okay, so and throughout the entire span of the year before that, until right in around March, in the entire year plus before that, we had not gotten into the 50 percentages. So that I can recall. So, as we've gone through this whole drop off and as prices have started to fall, you can see that our inventory has been growing. And I'm going to show you that in a chart after this. But part of that indication is the sold to new list percentage. Okay. Now, what's interesting is over the last little bit, we're starting to see that sold to new list percentage rebound a bit. The reason I've got a range in here is because some of the solds from last week are not fully updated yet, so I'm not sure where that's going to lie, but it's probably going to be over 50% for the first time since, let's look back here, since mid-March. Okay, so April, May, June, July, August, that's a good chunk of months to get back to a number like this. So that could be interesting. That could be an indicator we don't know yet. Okay. These charts show a lot of stuff. There's a lot of things going on here. Okay. But what I'm going to draw your attention to is the net growth in listings. Okay. Now, the specific number is not important because I started tracking this stuff on a random day in January of 2021. So I started from that day as 0. Okay. And every week I figured out how many listings came off the board, they were sold, expired, canceled, etc., versus how many new listings came on. And if more listings came on than came off, that means that we had a net growth. We had green, okay? And if listings came off the board, we had red. Our inventory shrank, okay? So as we went through the early part of last year, we were slowly growing a little bit. And then we get to May, April, we had some growth, a little bit of a pullback, more growth through the early early summertime. And then as we get into late summer, you can see it's almost all red except for that first week of September when people rush to put their houses on the market, that first week of the fall market, right? But it was just shrinking inventory all the way through till that new year. The new year was when things shifted, started to see the indicators, okay? But the prices were still climbing. The prices lag behind what we're seeing for market indication, right? Because people catch on. It's like the stock market. There's first the forces will drive in the background, and then people will catch on afterwards, and then the prices will follow suit later on. So we could see that the inventory starts growing here, the start of the new year, and it's just exploding and picking up pace through the spring, okay? Like, look at this. Some weeks we had a week in here where we gained 130 net listings in Simcoe County. The amount of growth was incredible. Okay, like if I look back to where our net number bottomed out, we were at minus 217. Again, the specific number is not important. That's just as compared to how much inventory there was on that day of January in 2021. We had 217 listings net across the county less on that date. Well, look, as it continued to explode and exploded upwards and continued to grow throughout into the summer, we maxed out at 1,546 listings more. So in other words, we grew by almost 1,800 listings from where we were at the new year, okay? But what's happened over the past month or so is it's kind of stabilized. And for the first time since last year, we've had 2 weeks in a 4-week span that we had inventory shrink in. So this could be the leading edge indicator that we could be starting to turn a little bit from the way that the market's been recently. So what I'm going to show you is looking at this in graph form. A lot of people are more visual learners, okay? So this is that net inventory. Okay, this pink line is where we maxed out in inventory last year. So you can see this was our summer, and it kind of bounced up against this line and then fell consistently all the way through to the new year. And then remember I said it started picking up speed and then it exploded in inventory, blew past our maximum inventory from last year. And you can see here, boom, boom, it's kind of hitting up against a cap for the last 4 weeks here. And it looks like it might be getting ready to turn downwards. We don't know for sure. This could be a lull and then it could pick back up and go up. Don't know for sure. Again, this is all speculation, but we're seeing some signs that there could be a turn coming. This graph looks intimidating. Let me explain to you what it is. It's that sold to new list percentage. Remember that one that I've color coded? Green was above 80%, red was below 70. Well, what I did here is I put between 80 and 60. That's kind of that healthy, strong market. And that's where we tended to be in that range, sometimes going above it. Remember, we went into silly numbers in around Christmas season because they were kind of skewed. But then, the early part of this year, that's right here. And then as the market started to drop off, we kind of came down into these percentages of between 40 and 20%. But what we're seeing here, the last little bit, is the trend line is climbing up again. So as that sold to new list percentage starts to climb, it starts to give positive pressure on pricing instead of negative again. Okay, so again, the last month or so, we're starting to get leading edge indicators. We're not seeing it in the pricing yet, because remember what I said, the pricing changes lag. They shift later. It will depend if this becomes a trend in this other direction, but it looks like it might be, okay? We don't know for sure. Here's the average sale price. This is again going back to January of 2021. Don't worry about these titles down here. I haven't fully finished this graph properly. These are in 2-week blocks. I took the average sale price so that I could collect more data. And you can see that we're almost back to where we were in January of 2021. We had the big spike here that kind of came from around the new year through till around middle of March, and then it started to drop. We got a little bit of a boost, and then it's kind of been on a bit of a generally a declining direction here. Okay, and we don't know where that's going to bottom out. Just so you know, we're still a good 40% over where we were pre-pandemic right now. Okay, so just keep that in mind as well. So here's the pricing. Here's what it looks like in numbers. So these are in 2-week blocks. I clumped together, generally speaking, roughly the same price point within a color block on the right-hand side here. Okay, this sale price to original list price, what that indicates is what percentage the house sold for as compared to what it was listed for. Now, these numbers are out of whack because people were under listing all the time, right? They knew that the house was going to sell for 1.1, they'd list it for 900,000. So, you know, you would get these bidding wars and 30 offers would show up and it would sell for, 15% over asking. So the reason I started tracking those was just to get a feel for how many people were using the underlist strategy and how effective it was at the time. Okay, but what you can look at here is, look at the average sale price, how it's climbed. Again, this is January of 2021. We kind of continue to go down here. You can see in the early summer, it was a bit of a pullback there because the inventory was growing for a little while. And then started climbing again, climbing. Oops, where'd it go? Let's try that again. Okay, so again, picking up in 2021, late summer, early fall, climbing again through the fall. And then it really picks up pace through the end of the year and into the new year. And then we peaked in around, why does it keep doing that to me? We peaked right at the end of February into early March, okay? Averaging over 1 million. Drop off came pretty aggressively though, okay? That's when the prices started to drop. And you can see here, I've gone back to this yellow. Do you recognize that? 751, 600. If I take you all the way back, that's where we were mid-January through to the end of March in 2021. Okay, so that just gives you an idea where that's at. So when people say they want to get what their neighbor got in March, sorry, not happening. Because look at 751 versus 973 or 900. That's still a substantial drop, right? I mean, you're looking at a good 25%. So last week, too small of a data set to say if this is, actually what happened, but it does look like the prices are continuing to slide downwards a little bit. However, we might be seeing indicators that over the next few weeks, we might be bottoming out. We don't know yet. I'm just saying it's something to keep an eye on. Okay? Don't worry about those. So, what does this all mean? So what does this all mean? It might mean nothing. It might be a temporary stall and then the trend continues. But what I would say to those of you that are trying to time the market, it's always important to look at where we are right now. because invariably with any clients I've had over the years, I've been doing this for 7 years now, anybody who tries to time the market, there's always those folks that end up looking back and going, geez, I wish I would have just done it back then. Or, geez, I wish I didn't do that then and I wish I could do it now. You can't hit the perfect timing. Now, right now, what I can tell you is if you're looking to buy, you can get whatever conditions you need pretty much. You can pick most of the time the ideal timing that works for you. You almost never have to compete. So those sorts of scenarios from the perspective of somebody that's looking to buy something are ideal, okay? When the things start to shift and the whole consensus starts to turn and the market starts going back upwards again, that's going to change in a hurry. And by the time you realize it's changing, it's already going to be too late. Any of the good opportunities are going to have multiple people sniffing around, making offers on them, okay? Whereas right now, even when there's good opportunities, you still most of the time don't have to compete. So just keep those things in perspective and in mind. Over the long term, as long as it's not you're not planning to make like a quick 6-month flip or something like that, if you're going to hold on to it for 5+ years, you're almost always going to make money, okay? It's going to continue to be the same sort of asset it's been for the last number of decades, all right? We're going to go through these little ups and downs. It's going to happen. But just keep in mind what the market situation is right now. And if it does change and starts to go the other direction, are you going to look back and go, geez, I wish I took action in August? And if you're not going to kick yourself for that, then no problem, right? I'm just making you aware of what's going on because you're in my database and I've made that promise to keep you posted on what's going on in the market. If you have further questions about this or anything you saw in this video, please don't hesitate to reach out. Kudos to you for making it through. I know this was a long one, but I wanted to go through it in depth. Take care. All the best. Hope to chat with many of you soon. Bye for now.